Covering music-related content of all genres. If it filters through Eastern Texas, it's fair game. Y'all bring it. From Texarkana down to the coast and Dallas down to Houston and everything in between. We are ETX ROCKS!
Hit the brakes!
Cut! Hey y'all, Boston Chris here. I just want to let y'all know, if you're looking for the best place, the cleanest studio that really cares about your product just as much as you do, the place to be is with Chad Malden and Malden Productions, right there at Studio 333 in Bullard, Texas. Chad cares about every single project he works on, and he will make sure that you get the product and the sound that you deserve. So once again, remember, check out Chad Malden, Malden Productions, on Facebook, or maldenprod.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of ETX Rocks with Boston Chris. This week we have something a little special. We have a guest host with us this week named Chad Malden of Malden Productions. Chad will be interviewing yours truly for the first time on our podcast, ETX Rocks. Chad, take it away.
All right, well, we're glad to be here. This is going to be a really great interview because, of course, you know, everybody sees Boston Chris around town, and he's interviewing folks, and he's out with all these bands and is involved in the artistic scene in East Texas, in particular, the music scene. But not many people know the whole story behind Boston Chris. So there's and let me just tell you, there's a lot of really great stories to tell here. So we're going to start from the beginning, and we're going to hear some great stuff about where Boston Chris is from, perhaps you can guess, and how he got here to Texas, and how was it that he got involved in the music scene? What was the sort of the catalyst for that, if you like? There's a lot of interesting information and tidbits and details along the way. So we're going to find out all that great stuff. Boston Chris, who basically, as I mentioned, is involved with the music scene, but in particular with East Texas music, and then now also with this great podcast, East Texas, or ETX Rocks. And of course, he has this great Facebook page, Boston Chris, it's called East Texas
Friends and Events.
Yeah, which has, how many followers does that have?
It's got 16,000 members, all originating here in East Texas.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, Boston Chris is the guy who founded that and put all that together and gathered all of those folks together for such an amazing forum. So anyway, a lot of great stuff, a lot of great questions to ask. So here we go with Boston Chris.
What's up, y'all?
All right, so let's just start from the beginning. Tell us where you're from and kind of what your upbringing was like. What was little Boston Chris like, and what was his life like?
Well, I was born in a place called Taunton, Massachusetts, which is probably about 35 miles south of Boston. I was born and raised by parents that were married for almost 40 years when my father passed away in 2013.
Oh, wow.
They raised me on classic traditional country.
Nice.
Which is a little unheard of where I'm from.
Yeah, you wouldn't think Massachusetts would be the hotbed for classic country.
It's not. We had one radio station that covered country music, if that's what you want to call it. But,
sure.
My father was involved with the Massachusetts Country Music Association. We had friends and family that were all involved. A friend of mine, Yankee Jack, who just passed away this year, was multiple-time winner in those awards. He's actually a Massachusetts Country Music Hall of Famer now. My uncle was a world champion yodeler.
Wow.
From Athol, Massachusetts.
There you go.
Make sure you pronounce that right.
Of course.
This is a family program.
Yes, that's right. Be careful.
So I was raised on country music. When I got a little bit older, I started to branch out a little bit into the 80s glam rock and hair metal. And
guilty as charged.
Like that. Yeah, it was there. It was
okay, let me just stop you right there.
Yeah.
Top 3 favorite 80s metal bands.
Top 3 favorite 80s. Okay. I'd have to say Bon Jovi for sure.
Sure.
I know I'll get some flack for that. I don't care.
That's all right, man. You just take it. Stand up for what
Guns
you
N'
believe.
Roses.
For
sure. Has to be in there. That's considered 80s, right?
Well, it was on the heels of the 80s
80s,
movement. They kind of
90s.
were outside they were included in that group, but they also kind of had they were pushing beyond those boundaries. But I think it's fair.
I'd have to say number 3 would probably be Motley Crue.
Yeah. Rat for me, baby.
Oh man, Rat.
Yeah,
Rat was so unheard of.
Rat, Dawkins, and I'm gonna throw something.
Stryper.
Gotta give some love to Stryper. But there was a band called TNT And
not heard
yeah,
of
they were kind of they weren't sort of big superstars, but they were one of my faves. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You
it's
just
all
kind
good.
of
It's
piqued
all
my
good.
interest. Go ahead.
So, my dad always taught me a lot of what I do is because, or in honor of my dad. In fact, everything I've done since he's passed away is 100% in his memory.
Oh wow, yeah.
And he raised me to be, I guess the best word is eclectic when it comes to music.
Yeah.
He was a huge Hank Williams fan, Merle Haggard, Conway Twitty, but he would also introduce, Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters.
Yeah.
And, 40s type music. And my mom is probably the biggest Elvis Presley fan on the planet.
Yeah.
We actually have a section of our house we call the Memphis Wing because of all of her memorabilia.
Yeah.
When we have new folks over, she's always like, come see Memphis.
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, just that upbringing kind of brought me, I guess, to appreciate all forms of art and music, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, how long did you live in Massachusetts? What was the age? Because obviously, we're not in Massachusetts right now. You're not living there.
Right,
So,
we're not.
how long
We're
did
not.
you live there?
I graduated in '94, and shortly after graduating, I enlisted into the U.S. Navy, and I spent 2 years in the U.S. Navy. Lived in Mississippi, Florida, and Virginia as part of my Navy career. And when I got out of the Navy, I went back home to Massachusetts and stayed there. We moved to Texas, East Texas, in 2001.
So, your family moved to Texas?
Yes, my mom, my dad, and myself.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, and that was after you got out of the military.
Yes. I got out of the military in the end of 96.
Okay.
And went back to my sales job that I had prior to going into the Navy. And did that for a while. Then I drove a cab for a while, dispatched some cabs for a while, and then decided to make the move to East Texas in 2001.
Cool. So, what was the inspiration to move to Texas?
Well, my ex-wife, the mother of my 3 children, her family was from the Tatum area.
Okay, right.
And we would come down here every other summer to visit. And it got to the point where my dad was retired.
Yeah.
But because of how expensive it is to live in the Northeast, just because he was retired doesn't mean he wasn't retired. He He was still working 60 hours a week.
Just to keep things going.
Yeah,
right.
driving a taxi cab. And so, and he had, severe heart problems and had open heart surgery, several heart attacks. So part of the catalyst was to get him to actually retire.
Right, a place where the cost of living was less.
The cost of living here was so different that he was actually, when we did make the move, he was actually able to actually retire.
That's awesome.
Another catalyst was I didn't want my children to have to grow up the way I did, with violence and drugs on every corner. And things like that. Little did I know that Longview would turn into that at some point. But
there's still some safe havens, though.
Yeah, there is. But I had to get my kids out of that because I've still got a lot of memories, bad memories of people that I knew that were killed by drive-bys or drug overdoses or whatever. So that was a big thing. I didn't want my kids to have to go through the same things I did as a kid. So.
Gotcha. Okay, well, cool. So that probably has you at what age when you're moving to Texas?
Oh, I would have been 25.
25, okay, yeah. So I think probably this is a good time to get into perhaps maybe the introduction of Boston Chris into the entertainment industry. You didn't start off being like heavily involved in the music industry, though you were a music fan, as we just discussed. Right. But you came into the entertainment business via a different route. Why don't you tell us what that was?
Well, first of all, when I was still in Massachusetts, I had my own karaoke company, I guess you could call it. It was called Thunder and Lightning Productions.
Okay, right, yeah.
And we did, karaoke at bars and local fairs and things like that. And we're pretty well known up there.
Yeah.
And so that kind of started my, I guess, introduction into public entertainment. For sure. When I moved here, it took me probably, I guess, 4 or 5 years to build up enough capital to purchase the same things that I had up there.
Right.
As far as building another karaoke company.
Yeah, so you did carry that over to Texas and kind of reestablish that.
I created a company called Up All Night Karaoke with Boston Chris, where you are the star of the show.
Nice.
And that was probably about 2005-ish, somewhere in there. Did that probably right up until my divorce in 2010.
Okay.
So about 5 years, had a pretty good following around the Longview, Kilgore area.
Awesome.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, there are people. There's a whole community. I mean, everybody loves karaoke, but there's
Right.
like a whole community of people that are like serious about it. Like
Right.
they're into it, man.
Right. I'm proud of the distinction that I was probably one of the first 3 in East Texas to go digital as far as 100% laptop driven, you know, no more CDs for karaoke.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You know, I created slideshows and the little ticker tape on the
Cool.
TV and,
Yeah.
you know, added some innovative ideas to
Right.
the karaoke field. But eventually I got tired of the bar politics.
So as you're transitioning out of that part of the entertainment, you know, obviously now Boston Chris is synonymous with the music scene here in Texas, in East Texas in
guess
particular. It's really become that way over the last couple of years for sure. Maybe that's been longer in coming.
Well, it's, I guess I burst onto the scene about a year ago.
Okay.
So it
So
would've
tell me
been-
about the occasion for that.
Well,
I mean, obviously you had a love for music, and then you had
Yes.
a related interest in that you used to run the successful karaoke business.
Right.
But obviously, you're not doing karaoke now. You're really involved in live music and all that. So, yeah, talk about
Well,
that.
one
Trey.
thing I learned fairly quickly with social media and Facebook in particular was, regardless of how many friends or connections you have on Facebook, you have a power with your voice.
Yeah.
Just by typing something out.
Yep.
I would see people talking about, you know, hey, this is what I'm making for dinner tonight.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we're going to the movies. And I started watching this. Now, my Facebook, up until February of 2015, I had 70 friends.
Right.
Okay, we're talking 14 months ago or so, 15 months ago. So I was, you know, very sheltered.
Yeah.
When it came to social media and things like that. And mostly the reason for that is I was a single dad. I had full custody of all 3 of my children.
You didn't have a lot of time to sit around messing around with Facebook. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, I was worried about letting people into my little circle, which
Right.
was me and my children and my mom and things like that. Well, I had a good friend of mine named Kayla Campbell, who is now Kayla Hernandez. She just got married.
Ah, great.
Who basically I was getting really frustrated with single life and was ready to change the way I was, particularly with the way, you know, you treat a woman.
Yeah.
And she was adamant that I not change who I was and that possibly what I should do is open my circle more. She said, your Facebook is so small, you've got 3 kids, you never get to go out. You're not going to find that person that you need to find, that person that will complete you, unless you open yourself up and stop being so sheltered.
Yeah.
And she said it really in a strong tone of voice.
She felt she was really trying to, she really cared for you and was really trying to help you out in this way. Yeah.
And so I decided, you know, I'm going to get out there a little bit more. Now, part of this time was, you know, I would hang out with a couple of bands, the Richard Stewart band in particular. I was a huge fan of. And I'd go to a lot of his shows, and I had a bunch of friends still in the karaoke community, still in the wrestling community.
Cool.
And I started realizing that, hey, maybe this social media thing, even if I only have 70 friends, I can still kind of let people know that there's wrestling on Thursday nights here.
Yeah.
Or my friends doing karaoke here on Friday night.
Yeah. Or this band that I love.
Or this band that I love is playing on Saturday night. And sure, maybe only 70 people will see it. But at the same time, I'm helping my friend out.
Yeah.
Right? Whoever that may be.
Yeah.
So I decided through listening to Kayla's words to join a singles group on Facebook to, I guess, kind of get myself out there a little bit more, I guess.
Meet some folks.
And started, you know, friending a lot more people on Facebook and growing my circle that way. While still kind of doing small time promoting for just personal friends of mine.
Yeah.
Well, after a while, I had met somebody on the singles group, and they decided, the admins in charge of that singles group decided that, you know, since we were together, we shouldn't be part of that group anymore.
Since you technically weren't singles.
Right. Well, and that kind of hurt because, you know, we had made a lot of friends on there and things like that. And so I got to thinking, well, I like to promote my friends' stuff. I like to meet new people. Why don't I start my own group where there are no rules about being single or not single or whatever, and we can promote events that we find, we can promote local businesses that we find, and things like that. So that's what I did. I started East Texas Friends and Events on May 8th of 2015. And it blew up.
Yeah.
Apparently, there was nothing quite like that concept in East Texas.
Yeah, 16,000 plus followers is a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of artists and bands that would love to have 16,000 likes.
And it grew so fast. It just started as a way to maybe do some meet and greets, maybe meet new people, help a local business that's struggling, or a band or whatever, And then as it started to, let me tell you this, 2 days after we started the group, the Mother's Day tornado hit Van.
Okay.
And at this point, we had a couple of hundred members, even after 2 days, we had a couple of hundred members or whatever. And a lot of the people in the group decided to come together as a group and actually donate food and time and things like that to the Van tornado relief. This is not something I had anything to do with. It was just people within the group that
But there was this forum that facilitated that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, that got me to think. I'm like, okay, wow. This new concept that just kind of came about by accident. And, the people within the group, the system, whatever you want to call it, are already reaching out. So I got to thinking, hey, we can help people with this.
Right.
As well as just, provide a place. Because one thing, if you don't know about the way groups work, especially on Facebook, is every group, typically garage sale groups, and they sell guns and cars and cell phones. But, every one of these groups has 15, 20, 25 rules that people in the group have to follow.
Yeah.
Or they get kicked out.
Or they can't be a part of the group, yeah.
Well, no, I didn't. I was like, that's ridiculous. Well, this is what we're going to do with the ETFE. We'll allow anybody in as long as they're from East Texas and over the age of 18.
Yeah.
And there will be no rules. The only rule is no drama. We will not allow drama, and it has
fussing
to be
and fighting.
And it has to be PG-13.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like those are the only two rules. So if you want to advertise a puppy for sale, go ahead.
Yeah, right.
If you want to advertise your new business opening in downtown Kilgore, go ahead and do it.
Right.
If you want to advertise that you're a Plexus dealer,
right,
go ahead and do it.
Cool.
As long as you're not creating drama and you're not cussing, go ahead and do it.
You're good to go, yeah.
So that was part of the concept as well, that people were like, hey, this is a great place. It's safe. It's monitored daily by myself, so we're keeping out the spam and the drama and all of this. We're keeping it out.
Yeah, because you don't want spam. You want an individual promoting their thing. Right. You don't want some
So we've
spammer.
created that safe place for people to come in and basically sell their wares on a local level.
Awesome.
So that's where, within a couple of months we were at 5.
So that's kind of how you got sort of this platform for reaching people.
Yes.
And then, but somehow that platform transitioned into, more specifically, the music scene here in East Texas.
Well, interestingly enough, I had an idea that I could utilize all of these other groups to my advantage with my group.
Yeah.
And since I decided to name the group East Texas Friends and Events, well, East Texas isn't just Longview, where I'm from. It's not just Tyler. It's this broad range of hundreds of thousands of people from Greenville to Houston, from Texarkana to Crockett,
right,
and a lot of places in between.
That's
so I got to thinking, hey, I bet you most of these towns and cities have their own little garage sale or yard sale Facebook groups. So I decided I was going to start advertising for my group, which covers all of those areas, and build the membership from each corner. So that's what we did.
So you would actually go and find some of these other groups and you would reach out to them?
Yes.
Would you private message them, or?
No, I would just put out an advertisement for ETFE. I would say maybe the group is Texarkana Garage Sale.
Yeah.
And so I would just put in the group, hey y'all, we just started this brand new group called East Texas Friends and Events. Here's the concept. Why aren't you a member yet? And next thing you know, we've got
all 500 members of this group would
and they're bum rushing us, and now we've got a Texarkana following.
Wow.
So from there I said, you know what, this is great. Now we're building the group. We're strictly East Texas, but now we're covering every corner and nook and cranny.
Now
of
not
East
just
Texas.
this little small spot in East Texas. But
We've got Lufkin, we've got Nacogdoches, we've got Tyler, Terrell, all these other places, Canton. And so I was like, all right, cool. So now all of a sudden I started seeing other bands and venues coming into the group.
And posting about
unbeknownst
gigs
to
and
me,
stuff like that.
And just posting about their event. So I got to thinking, hey, I bet you I could kind of use this platform to get all the venues in here, get all the bands in here, and now everybody's in the same place, and it makes it easier for each one of those different entities
it's
to
centralized.
be successful.
Yeah.
So if you're a venue in East Texas and you're looking for a band, all you've got to do is advertise in ETFE, hey, we're such and such a venue. We need a band on Friday, such and such a date. And now you've got dozens of bands that are right there at your fingertips ready to do it.
Awesome.
So I reached out to as many venues as I could
And at
find.
the time, you just did it because you just loved music.
Yes.
And you were just a fan.
Let me change that. It goes a little deeper than that.
Okay.
I did it because I love East Texas.
Okay.
Okay. It wasn't just music.
Right.
Okay. To me, when I got here as fast as I could.
Yeah, right.
By the way.
Good for you.
But when I got here, I fell in love
Yeah.
with East Texas. The small town mentality, the personalities around here, the friendliness.
Right.
Up until I moved to East Texas,
We like waved to each other and stuff.
I was never a part of that.
Yeah, right.
I would never drive down my street in Massachusetts and expect somebody to wave at me.
Yeah.
So when it happens here, it's like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Sure.
So yeah, I fell in love with East Texas. And, it hurts me to go to a downtown area of East Texas, and every city and town is the same.
Yeah.
You go into downtown East Texas, and there's always a business or 4 or 5 that are boarded up.
Yeah, right.
Because everything ends up out on the exterior of their town. That's
Sure.
where Walmart comes in, and the malls and the restaurants, and downtown.
So it's always really cool when a city really builds up their downtown area.
Right.
I think Kilgore. I'm from Kilgore, and Kilgore's done a good job.
Yeah,
of that the last several
Kilgore's,
years.
and like I said, every town to me, I've been to so many places in East Texas now. They're all the same. There's always that 1 or 2 businesses that just don't make it there.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And it's usually because the big guy is out on the, the contours of the town.
Right.
Well, I don't like that.
No.
Because
And your forum really gives a voice to those businesses. I mean, Walmart's not interested in getting on there.
No, of course not.
But the boutiques and all those kind of places, they're
Absolutely.
there. Yeah.
And to me, it's like if you buy local, you're paying for somebody's dance lessons.
Yeah, right.
Or you're paying for their summer camp.
Right.
Or whatever. If you put money into Walmart's pocket, you're not paying for anything.
Yeah, right.
You're just adding another little stack to somebody's pile of money.
Yeah, it's just kind of soulless. I mean, I don't want to be hating on Walmart or anything, but I know what you mean. I mean,
I work for Walmart. I love Walmart, but if I have a choice between buying at Walmart or going to the little produce stand on the corner of 2 highways,
I'd much rather go someplace where you're connecting with people and you feel like you're part of the community.
Right.
And it's just, I know what you mean.
See, the way I look at it is like this, okay? If you live in a small town, let's take Tatum, for example, where I live close to.
Yeah.
If you live in a small town and somebody brings in a pizza joint to that small town, now everybody in that small town should be excited because now they have a pizza joint.
Yeah.
Right? But guess what? If you still go to Longview and you buy from Pizza Hut, you're not buying from your local pizza joint.
Yeah.
And sometimes all it takes is for that one person to not buy from that pizza joint in Tatum for it to go under.
Right.
So if I'm going to buy local, I buy local.
Yeah.
That's not to say Pizza Hut has bad pizza.
No.
But it's straight up, hey, if I've got pizza right here in Tatum.
I grew up in Longview, and so, if the choice is Pizza Hut for me, or if the option is pizza, I'm going to Pizza King every time.
Right. Same here. It's
been there for over 40 years.
And not just because they're better, but because they're local.
Yeah, right. And there's something cool about that. Yeah.
And so, I know that everybody sees me out here promoting and really campaigning for local musicians, but really my whole mantra is local, period.
Yeah.
The word is local for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if it's a local artist or a local author or a local actor or local music. Yeah. I'm all about that.
Yeah. And so music was just a natural progression in that way because
it was.
It was just another one of these local expressions. And you love music, and you had a love for music, and so it just sort of naturally moved into this role that you have in local music, because it goes beyond just this forum that you set up, East Texas Friends and Events, which obviously includes music, but you have a much more deliberate involvement in music now. So tell us about what that looks like.
Well, I'll tell you how that came about. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a pretty observant guy, and I do a lot of thinking. So, I decided I had heard about the East Texas Music Awards. And I was like, man, what a great concept, right? I was just, enamored with the idea.
Sure.
Right. Obviously, I didn't come up with the idea. It was just something that I saw that came across my promotion desk or whatever you want to call it. And I was like, man, this is great.
Yeah.
So then this was last year, 2015, and I voted and went through that process. Mind you, I didn't know very many bands at the time.
But you voted for the ones that
I did know.
Yeah.
And then
because East Texas Music, by the way, is fan-based voting.
Right.
Yeah, which is great. And they've had, just a little plug real quick, this is the 5th year. This coming award show will be the 5th year. I think they've had 300,000 plus votes. Yep. That's a lot of participation.
And we're hoping to double that this year.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's incredible.
But anyway, so I saw the final round come. And I had voted for the nomination round last year for the people that I liked and the people that I knew. And then I saw the finals come out. And I felt so uneducated.
Yeah.
When I saw the 35 categories with 5 finalists in each, and I could only identify maybe 3.
Right.
And I was like, this is not cool.
Yeah.
So how do I fix that? So I'm thinking to myself now, okay, if I'm thinking this, then other people who see this list of nominees are going to say, hey, I don't know who to vote for. I don't know any of these people.
Yeah.
Well, how do you change that? You change that by research. You change it by educating yourself.
Yeah.
Things like that. So I took it upon myself. This is before I met Nathan Honeycutt. I took it upon myself to reach out to each and every single one of those finalists.
Yeah.
And actually talk to them and interview them.
Wow.
And I wrote an article for each person that actually talked to me. And I posted the article along with a video of their performance. Some performance, whether it's from
some kind of
YouTube,
performance clip.
Whatever. Reverb Nation, their Facebook page.
Yeah.
But I wrote up a short article on each one and put it into my Facebook group, ETFE.
Yeah.
In hopes of educating people about each of these folks that were nominated.
Awesome.
That made the final round.
You just took it upon yourself to do that.
It took me 6 weeks to do it.
Wow. I bet Nathan noticed that.
He did. He did. So, but, I reached out to everybody from every category, whether it was EDM DJ of the Year or Lifetime Achievement.
Yeah.
So, in the process of doing that, obviously I learned a lot about local music.
Yeah.
And I started to realize the abundance of unbelievable talent that is all around us.
Absolutely.
It did not occur to me until I decided to start doing those articles.
Right. And I mean, if you really think about it, East Texas has produced a lot of nationally famous music artists.
Yep.
I'm just thinking off the top of my head, Don Henley,
Miranda Lambert, Ray Price, old school country artist. Your parents probably, liking classic country, may have liked Ray Price. I got a good story about that, actually. My dad and I went to Ray Price's 80th birthday party at the Gilmer Civic Center, and we were so blessed to be able to meet him.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, he just passed a couple of years ago, didn't he?
Same year my dad died.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's others that I'm missing, but those are just some that, off the top of my head.
I could name a few more. Casey Musgraves.
Yes,
Sonny
of course.
Sweeney, Neil McCoy.
Yes.
Leanne Womack.
Oh, love her. Yeah.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah, you're right. Just
really are.
This is just fertile ground, I suppose.
Drowning Pool is from Tyler.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Fertile ground indeed for music, East Texas. So so you're seeing all of this local talent, just going, wow, I can't believe it.
And the thing was, in the process of me doing these articles, I got to the category that interested me the most, and that was the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, okay.
Now, there were 5 nominees for that last year, and those were Stevie Joe, who I believe had some kind of fame on one of the reality shows. I think it was either The Voice or X Factor or something like that.
Yeah.
Lucky Boyd. Don Henley was part of that.
Sure.
Donnie Hart, and the last one was Uncle Dallas.
Yes, right.
Now, 3 of those 5 took the time to actually talk to me.
Right.
You want to try?
I bet Don Henley was not on the list.
He was.
He was on the list that talked to you?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
Oh, well, tell me. We got to hear about that.
Well, that's not what I want to talk about.
Okay, well, talk about that in a minute, because we'll come back to that.
Now, two of the ones on that list I had heard of.
Okay.
And that was Donnie Hart
Sure.
and Uncle Dallas.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
kind of a local legend.
Being from Longview, I had heard of Uncle Dallas and his craziness
Oh, yeah.
from the time I moved here.
Sure.
So when I saw his name on the Lifetime Achievement list, I immediately reached out to Uncle Dallas.
How great.
And Uncle Dallas he passed away earlier this year.
Yes, he did, sadly.
But he was very, very guarded when it came to social media.
Really?
He was very leery of new people. So when this...
Which surprises me, since he was such a widely loved guy who was very outgoing.
Yes.
But in more traditional ways, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But, when someone who's not known locally in the music business at the time
Yeah.
messages you and says, hey, I'd like to learn more about you because, you've been nominated for this award, he was very not sure about it.
Right.
So, he started asking people about me and things like that, started watching what I was doing with the group and on my own personal Facebook page. And finally, after about a month and a half, he messages me back and he says, okay, Boston, I think you're legit, brother.
This sounds like him.
Yeah, I think you're legit, brother. And as you might know, I'm as real as it gets, brother. So let's talk.
Yeah.
So to be quite honest, the things that have happened to me in this business, I 100% attribute to Uncle Dallas.
Really?
Saying nice things about me to his friends and other people in the business.
So lending a measure of legitimacy to you.
Well, Uncle Dallas was a huge supporter of local music. Obviously, he was a legendary musician in his own right.
Sure.
But he legitimately cared about his brother and sister musicians in this area, and he showed that support every chance he could get.
I know as a young engineer, I did a session with him. I was green as green can be. Right. And it was a good memory. Yeah,
green as chicken crap.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that was years and years ago. And anyway, he was great in the studio, and he was very nice to me.
Yeah. So I did a short article for him, and he enjoyed it very much. And I got that elusive invite to Uncle Dallas's garden.
Yes, right.
The Garden of Love.
Right.
And he said, "Hey, brother, we want to have you over." And I was just like, at that moment, it was like, wow, I made it.
Yeah, right.
Uncle Dallas is letting me
invite me over to the house. Yeah.
And we went over there, my girlfriend and I, and we sat down with Uncle, and we talked about music and his travels. And this wasn't anything work related. It was just
getting to know him as a friend.
It was two friends just sitting down and talking. And we shot a short video with him. It was a short video interview like all the others that I do, except this one happened to be his last, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he sensed in me that same passion and love that he has for local music. And from that moment on, it would be any random night of the week. It could be 2:30 in the morning. My phone would ring, and that would be Uncle Dallas.
How cool! Yeah,
So,
and you probably didn't mind.
Not at all.
I'm sure
Not
that's
at all.
right.
In fact, I miss it very much.
I'm sure. Yeah. It was very sad when he passed. A lot of people loved him.
It was.
Yeah. So, real quick before we move on from that, because this just seems interesting to me, you also reached out to Don Henley and were able to get an audience with him.
Well, it wasn't a one-on-one in-person audience,
Okay.
But I reached out because I was feeling pretty confident about my success in the endeavor that I had undertaken.
Sure. You don't ask, you don't get, right?
Well, I was asking all these people, and all of them were willing to, spend 10 minutes talking to me on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool because I'm nobody. I'm just this random guy that has a name that has nothing to do with East Texas, Boston Chris, and he wants to know about me. That doesn't make any sense, but yet they all said yes.
That's great.
So after doing a string of these, a couple dozen of these, I'm looking at that one name that I do recognize, Don Henley, and I'm like, you know what? Everybody else is saying yes. Why not?
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
So I reached out. I went on his website and I emailed him, and his publicist got back to me, and said that he was in the process of making his new album, Cass County, by the way,
Which
in
I have a
stores
friend
now.
that played on that album, by the way. Yes, we did a podcast about
That's
Milo.
right. That's right.
So
But
download that.
so he was very busy and what have you on that. But his publicist said, hey, if here's his email address, just send him some questions and he'll answer them when he has time to.
Okay,
and I
nice.
was like, all right, cool. So I come up with probably maybe 15, 20 questions or so, and I put them all in an email format and I sent it out to him, never expecting anything from
Right.
him. In fact, I figured I could probably get most of the information I needed on him from public archives, but
Right.
I didn't want his viewpoint on his Eagles career or anything like that. I wanted to tell his local story.
Yeah, right.
Which was Linden, Texas, in Northeast Texas, in Cass County. So, sure enough, it was the middle of the night, and he sent me a reply with the answers to all the questions.
And how long passed? How much time passed?
A couple days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wasn't long at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I just wrote up a short piece on that. I still have it in my phone.
And you've got his email.
Yes, I do.
Not
that I would ever use it.
Not everybody has that. Yeah, that's great.
True.
That's awesome. So not only did you sort of begin to focus on music because you wanted to educate yourself and you were so enamored with this great sort of regional award show and all that kind of stuff, but you've also moved into doing booking management for a lot of these groups. So,
Yes.
or not a lot of, but several groups anyway.
Yes,
so
sir.
you're actually in the business now in the area of booking for some of these. Tell us about that.
Well, once again, it started with the group. People were noticing how good I was at it, at
right.
promoting. And, it was really a lot, I guess, selfless promoting too, because, I was just...
You didn't have a dog in the race.
Well,
so
I
to
was
speak.
just browsing through Facebook and anything. I
Yeah.
would like every page I could find, and I was just sharing what people were sharing on their own pages.
Yeah.
Except I was sharing it into a broader audience.
Yeah,
for
right.
them. I wasn't asking for anything in return or anything like that. It was just something I enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
I felt like I was helping.
Yeah.
And being a single father with some downtime, I was like, hey, this will keep me busy.
Sure.
And out of the bars.
Yeah, right.
So
You
that's
get
how
in trouble
that
there
started.
sometimes, right?
Well, then Jennifer Carruthers
Yeah.
took a notice of me, and we had some mutual friends, on the periphery, and kind of knew of each other anyway.
Yeah.
Took a notice to my talent or whatever at marketing and promoting and things like that, and she thought it might be a good idea if, since she didn't want to do it anymore, it maybe possibly book for her new act or group, which was called Jen and Rio.
Cool.
With
Yeah.
Rio Wallace.
Yeah. I went to junior high and high school with
Yes.
Rio. Yeah.
So she hired me to book for them, and I guess I was.
That's sort of how you cut your teeth. Then,
yeah,
was with
and
Jen Rio.
I had no clue what I was.
Yeah,
doing.
because when they were they're not playing together anymore. But when they were playing together, they were really doing a lot of dates. You had a movement.
Thank you.
Yeah, they were everywhere. That's good. Good on you.
I appreciate that, but yeah, it was just learning on the go.
Yeah.
Never being part of the business, even though I was promoting it on the periphery, I'd never been in the business.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I am.
Yeah.
Maybe in a very minor way, but
Not for those artists. It's not minor at all for them.
Yeah, and with the Jen and Rio thing, Jen and Rio was basically my only deal for months and months and months and months.
Sure.
And it's hard to do, number one. For not a lot of pay.
Right.
Which is fine because it is fun to do. It's been beneficial in networking capabilities and things like that.
Yeah.
We parted ways in January of 2016, Jen and Rio and I, amicably, and
Yeah. Sure.
no hard feelings or anything like that.
Well, there's not an act anymore.
Yeah, well, that came many months later.
Oh,
But,
okay. I see. Yeah.
what ended up happening though is because of the articles that I had done within my group and the interviews that I did. At this point, Nathan kind of learned who I was. Nathan Honeycutt with East Texas Music.
Right. Yeah, being the owner of East Texas,
Right.
an organizer of East Texas Music, you were a pretty central figure in East Texas
Right.
music at this point.
And I guess on his side of the fence, he could see this guy that nobody had ever heard of that was, really doing a lot of work for his company, even though he'd never met me.
Yeah.
Just because I had an inkling to know more.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the only reason why I came about is I just wanted to know more.
Yeah.
I didn't feel comfortable voting for a bluegrass band that I'd never heard of before.
Yeah, right.
Right. So I wanted to change that. And I figured if we're going to get other people to vote, then we need to educate them too, or they're not going to vote. They're just going to say, I'll leave that blank.
Yeah.
Well, if we educate them, they won't leave it blank.
Right, then there'll be a lot more votes cast.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So
Educated votes, yeah.
That's what I was thinking at the time. So anyway, I get this random message from Nathan saying, hey, I need to meet you. And I was like, okay, who are you? I'm Nathan Honeycutt, Honeycutt Slim. So anyway, him and I meet up at Leon's in Longview, and we talked for a long time. And that's one thing I've learned over the last year is when you get us two together, we are going to talk for a long time.
Sure.
And usually East Texas will get something really huge out of any time him and I meet.
Yeah, you guys are coming up with good ideas.
But at this point in time, after talking with him in several meetings and things, he decided to ask me to be stage manager at the 2015 East Texas Music Awards.
And that was when I first met you.
Yes, sir.
Because I was running sound for that event.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was just out of the blue, and I was like, okay, I'll do it. But what does a stage manager do? And he told me, hey, you just kick them out the door when they're supposed to go.
That's
or
right.
whatever. Basically, you're playing goalie.
Yeah.
And that kind of morphed into an on-stage role where, I was presenting quite a few awards with Jennifer and things like that. And, that was a lot of visibility for me.
Right.
I was very privileged to do that.
A lot of people were able to put a face with this guy who had created this big forum that they probably knew about.
And to be quite honest, and not to toot my own horn, but there were probably very few people that knew more about every single one of these artists than I did.
Yeah, right. You'd really done the work.
I knew every single person just about, and then we're talking 35 categories that we had last year.
Yep.
So I was ready, and I knew people by sight, even though I'd never heard them or met them before or whatever.
Sure.
So that was beneficial to me that night, especially.
Yeah.
Of course, I got to meet a lot of great musicians that night, including you. And,
sure. Well, thanks.
And people like Cody Wayne, and it was just an incredible night.
That's awesome. And so now you've come to where you're doing booking for several bands at this point.
Well, very shortly after presenting all those awards, I started getting. The momentum on social media after that night was just ridiculous. I was getting dozens of friend requests and messages and everything every single day, probably for a good 3 weeks after.
Yeah.
And I had like 8 or 9 offers from other bands.
To do booking for them.
Yes, to be involved with
That's
them.
awesome.
So
that's sort of how that came to be.
Yes.
Well, that's great, brother.
But at this point in time, I spend a lot of time creating or trying to create awareness for the awards, for the process, because to be an award-winning musician, especially locally, it helps you so much. And I know this from the booking side of it, is that whenever you win something, no matter what it is, you can go to a venue and say, hey, I have an award-winning band that would like to play there.
Yeah.
And you can't say that if you haven't won something.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? So it helps each band if they win, or even if they're only nominated. If they can go, hey, we were nominated for Rock Band of the Year. You really should book us. Yeah. And boom.
Because really what that tells, particularly now that a lot of these local venues know what East Texas music is and the award show is they know that award actually does mean something. What it means is that they have a fan base.
Yes.
And that's what brings people into the venues.
Right.
And that's important.
Yep.
So it's not some frivolous thing.
It's important to me to educate and create awareness for the process because there's so many places that we go, even locally in Longview or Tyler, that have never even heard about the East Texas Music Awards.
Yeah.
There are bands, really talented people that don't know of its existence.
Yeah, right.
And that's what I want to change.
Yeah, just trying to get the word out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe, the more work I do on that, the voting numbers will skyrocket.
Yep.
The involvement from people that are in the business will skyrocket. Mm-hmm. And then everybody benefits.
Absolutely. Well, listen, man, I think that you're doing a great thing for the local music scene, as well as other things as well. But obviously, sort of the occasion for us to know each other has to do with music. And so for that, I'm really grateful. And I'm glad to know you. And I think that you're doing a great work, brother.
Thank you.
And I think that this has been a great interview because people may not have known all of these things that led to this figure, this character, Boston Chris, that they've come to know. So I think this has been a good thing. So anything that you want to add? Anything that you felt in your heart that you needed to talk about that we haven't got to?
Well, one thing I'd like to say is when I moved to East Texas from a very populated area.
Yeah.
Densely populated. Where there's a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, right? As a younger person at the time, being mid-20s, I wanted to know what there was to do here.
Yeah.
Okay, what can I do? What's there to do? And I always heard the same thing. There's nothing to do in East Texas.
Right.
I heard that over and over and over. And to this day, I still hear those words all the time.
Right.
There's nothing to do in East Texas.
That's silly, isn't it?
Okay. I'm here to tell you different.
Yeah.
Because over the last 8 days, I've personally been in 9 different counties in East Texas.
Yeah.
Promoting the East Texas Music Awards. We've been everywhere from a restaurant to an arena.
Yeah.
From a park to a barbecue restaurant. Okay? There is way more to do in East Texas than you will ever dream.
Ever get around to doing, right?
Yes. It's there.
Yeah.
Don't be lazy.
Yeah, get out there.
Get out there and find it.
Yep.
Because it is there, and 9 times out of 10, the stuff you find is going to be some mom and pop that are struggling to make it.
Yeah.
And maybe you're walking through their door and ringing that bell is going to be the difference between them making it or not making it.
Yeah.
So that's been my mantra. Stay local.
Yep.
Keep it local. And I implore anybody who's listening to do the same.
Well, that's a great note to end on. So this is Chad Maulding, music producer for Maulding Productions at Studio 333 is where we're broadcasting. This has been a great interview. Boston Chris, East Texas Music Awards. Guys, check it out. Get your nominations in before Friday because that's when it ends. And then after that, we have the voting.
Well, this won't be released until the final voting is already out.
So at that point, we want to be encouraging people to do final voting.
You want to vote for one of your top 5 favorites. The top 5 will be voting for right now as this airs. So vote for your favorites. And if you don't know who they are, do some research.
That's right. Thank you, Boston.
You're welcome. Everyone, thank you for listening to this week's episode of ETX Rocks, brought to you by Studio 333 in Bullard, Texas. You can find Studio 333 on Facebook on their Facebook page, as well as Maulding Productions. And don't forget, you can go to etxmusic.com and vote for all your favorite artists, venues, magazines, radio stations, etc. Right there, just click on the voting link and enter the person or people you want to vote for. Don't forget to support local music, and ETX rocks.